Yo, what's up guys? Tom for 2 here, or Chessman on Lost Ark. Today I just wanted to do a Lost Ark video regarding Aegir hard mode, like support callouts and what I'm kind of looking for as a support. I think it's been a long time since I actually did a kind of a commentary or yap session on, you know, sort of play style or what I'm kind of looking for. It's the new year, so I thought I'd just sit down and quickly do this. Always open to anyone else's suggestions, especially for support. I'm a paladin main, so it's pretty easy to maneuver and navigate. But for bard, artist, I assume sort of more or so the same things you're looking for in terms of like when you use your DR skills, when you want to be buffing. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. I've just got this gameplay that we've got recently, full Aegir Gate 1 to Gate 2, hard mode. So we'll just kind of go mech by mech, just normal pattern by normal pattern, and then we'll see how I'm trying to shield and help my teammates out. So be sure to subscribe if you like this sort of content, and let's go right in. Okay, let me mute this. So first, pretty much off the get-go, it's going to be a pretty easy fight. You know, your DPS are just going to go in. This is a when he shows that red puddle, it's pretty much inside. I usually try to just use my push immune skill, and it just happens that God's Decree for Paladins is also a DR skill and push immune skill. So I try to just find my allies who might be a little bit squishier, like gunslingers, or squishier classes that I could just help protect a little bit better, especially when they get knocked up. But I won't get knocked up myself. I usually pop my Blessed Aura or my X skill as soon, a little bit after I let my DPS get their adrenaline stacks. But this is just pretty much a free DPS window right off the get-go. You just want to be buffing immediately so you can just get through the cutscenes and whatnot. Here again, same more or less same thing. You're not seeing too many major mechs at this point. You're just kind of rotating through your shields, get your branding skill off. Make sure you're rotating your attack power skills as well as you can. That mech right here, when it's like a bunch of crosses, um, I've tried to use my push immune skills just so that I don't get knocked up. But here I kind of used it a little bit earlier before the mech even happened, so I kind of just tried to spacebar buffer it instead. But generally, if you're a support, using your push immune skill is pretty good. This is just looking away. Make sure you stay close to the boss. Um, Notice how my allies, I'm trying to just keep track of my allies where I'm putting the, damage, rotating the damage bus pretty well. One good call out as well is I use two blue skills as my main kind of stagger skills. So I'm just trying to, at least a Conning Gate 1, he has a stagger bar above his head. So I'm just using my skills off, uh, you know, as soon as I have an opportunity to, just to get that stagger bar lower, and then it's better DPS for the DPS players. Then your first mech, notice how it's on our side, so I'm just gonna quickly use my DR skill and shield skills, just because the swipe does deal damage to them. I'm just gonna try to protect them. First mech, you're just walking around. I'm gonna pop my big stagger skills just to get these callouts right. As you can see, I've got horn. I call it out, and then because I probably have better stagger than most players in my party, I'm just gonna walk around and help them out if they do need it. But luckily, everyone is pretty good with their stagger. And I'm usually calling out to the DPS to not waste their stagger skills too much because then they have the CDs to do good DPS, especially if their big stagger skills are also their main, like pretty good DPS skills. I want to make sure that I'm using my full stagger kit uh, versus them. There's another inside. It's pretty easy to call out. Again, try to use your DR if you can, but otherwise you just spacebar in if you're able to make it. Um, Luckily, because I have what you would call it, I have my Arc passive on, and I'm able. I think the stone I cut has additional awakening, so I have additional awakenings I could just kind of throw out. So I'm trying to use that off CD as best I can, just because the more times you pop Blessed Aura, the better your Paladin performance will be. Just because your DPS are able to do a little bit more and squeeze every ounce of DPS they can. Um, you notice I like to hang around the boss quite a bit. Luckily, there we staggered the boss before he was able to do the earthquake. That's generally a pretty good sign. Um, and our stagger's pretty good, as I said, like overall. So, and that helps, as I throw out those blue skills, kind of off CD. I usually try to save at least one for like a counter, a possible counter. You never know when he's gonna go do a counter phase. Um, but yeah, heading into this kind of the second major mech. Because I use the side, pop in the side here. Use star when it's safe. Because we're inside, I can just pop it right away. Here, I'm just trying to buff my allies to do DPS and break the shield. You want to use the Thar second skill, sort of second cast here. And the only other thing I'm trying to look out for is if some of my allies get thrown out, I want to use like a DR skill or shield, so I have my Awakening on standby. And then at the same time, I'm also looking out for the counters, for the Vultans that kind of spawn. So that's the only thing kind of to be paying attention to. You don't really need to focus on doing DPS at all. So we really won't have too much to do or watch out for until you get to the phase where a vault or a con starts to overlap patterns with I guess I don't even know if it's called the Aegir boss, but they start doing the overlapping patterns where they're covering each other. So um, yeah, there's not really much to do. Everything else is just sort of DR at specific parts, or I'm just throwing out my two DR skills, as I can to protect my allies, especially in case they get caught up. But there's a lot of these patterns where sometimes there's caught in animation or station lock. So um, I play a lot of times with a gunslinger in my party, so I just want to make sure that if they are stationary and their sniper skills or something, I'm trying to DR them if they are unable to avoid it. Like here now is a good time where people might not be able to dodge quite as well, so I'm trying to use like a DR skill when I can and dodge myself. Um, but yeah, I just try to use a DR skill for my homies or my party mates. And this is when the overlapping patterns start, so you want to kind of be a little bit more cognizant of where you place your DR skills, who needs help, and when. Still throwing out my stagger skills. Blessed Star is always really good because it also does, help pump it to the next stage. And because of the awakenings I have, the extra ones, I could just kind of throw it out. Um, yeah, here's a good chance to do DR, especially when he's overlapping. Because I noticed the overlapping patterns, I do pop my awakening just to help my allies out a little bit. Let's see, I'll just kind of let it play out and I'll describe it as I kind of go through. Should be meching pretty soon. Again, good chance. He's now staggered, just letting the DPS pump it. Now he's phasing, which is good. So my role as a support at this part is pretty much just to maintain buffs, and brand, I guess, on the arm that kind of comes down. Otherwise, in comms, I'm just, you know, people can generally see it, like which is a safe row to be on, but I'm just kind of calling it out at the same time, just so that the DPS don't have to think too much. But otherwise, if I notice that a DPS member is not going to make it, I will just DR them, right? Here, everyone, I guess, is just trying to stagger. Usually I'm the one that's casting Thar anyways, so yeah, my iron and after two stagger, like I only have to use one rotation of my blue skills anyways, so it's pretty good. And then here's just kind of a DPS at the finish. This mech, there's nothing really I could do. I just want to get pushed back. I can't help it if my DPS do get knocked up. I can like try to beforehand like cast a DR skill, but it's also one of my push immune skills, so I don't really want to get push immuned. And here, because we know that the last phase is going to be a little bit rough as a support, I'm just trying to save my Hyper Awakening for that part. So we just got to play this part first. Before this hand that spews out fire, I do try to cast a DR skill across my allies beforehand, but in this case I didn't. Probably bad of me, but sometimes I just cast a DR skill in case one of them doesn't, in fact, get the Just Guard off correctly. But yeah, as you see, I'm saving my hyper. Um, I usually don't care about the damage I get from the hyper. I'm just popping it just to make sure that my DPS members, because of the overlapping patterns, they get the crisis evasion. They also get lots of shielding, and they're just surviving until we could get through the stagger meter. Um, yeah, it's just way safer in terms of getting it clear. So here, disregard, the damage or anything, just get it off. Now my DPS can safely just try to get the stagger through without any issue, fear of dying, pretty much. Um, Good mechanic there. As soon as you see the blue flash, you can spacebar buffer it. So you wait until this kind of fully blinks, and then you spacebar buffer. If you didn't know that. Um, Luckily, we got the stagger before he had to do the just guard pattern. But yeah, pretty much the fight to the finish after you kind of cast your awakening, and the hyper awakening is over, like it's kind of worn off. You want to really just focus on DRing your allies as best as possible, so they could just sit there in DPS. And luckily, we kill it pretty much like 5 to 10 seconds after it's staggered, right? So that's kind of what the normal experience is now, at least for Aegir hard mode. And that's pretty much gate one. There's really not much to it as a support besides just trying to rotate your buffs properly. As a paladin, I'm always trying to provide stagger and just DR whenever you see one of your allies in trouble. I always try to carry 2 DR skills now for every single support I play. So Bard, uh, Artist, and Paladin, I always carry 2 DR skills. I think that's the way to go. I used to sometimes only rock one on Artist. I think it's just a lot safer now, especially given the raids. Um, they could be pretty punishing. So let's get into gate two. Gate two has a lot of different normal patterns just to be aware of. A lot of it's just going to be DR and just shielding at the, normally. Obviously for this pattern, the counter pattern, usually I try to ping for everyone where to stand, but I think some people were not stacked, so that's why we kind of run into this issue where, he kind of turns around to a different location. As a support, what I kind of do in my own static group is I intentionally eat that one mech. So this mech coming up, I intentionally get hit by it because then it's predictable where he's going to turn. And the DPS, if they see that, I'm calling out where I'm getting hit, they could go right behind it and pretty much just freely DPS it. So that's just one thing that I think all supports should be doing. Just use a push immune skill if you have it up, eat it on purpose, and then it'll let the DPS kind of know where to stand safely, right? Especially if they're back attackers. Uh, this pattern I usually as a support. If you have your DR up, it's always good to cast it. Otherwise, I'm just calling out. Especially as a Shotcaller, you want to call out like you don't want to stand right in front of him, especially when he comes back, and then he also lands. So just be sure to avoid the red telegraph and then in front of him as well. Um, yeah, we're pretty much just DPSing until the Saw's mech. Saw's, I think the only role that I play as a support is I'm just shot calling, especially for some people who still struggle with the timing a little bit. Now, no one in my static really struggles with the timing, but just as a safeguard, right? I just call it when to when you can start casting it. Um, Otherwise, my stagger's pretty cracked. Um, at least within the group that I have, everyone kind of knows to save their big DPS skills for after this. Where you have to kind of do the damage in order to break the, I guess, the heart in the middle. So you'll see here that we juice it pretty fast. But here I'm just trying to. I noticed that my shield skill, is up. Some people might not be tapped off, so I'm just kind of watching the health bars too. If people miss their just guards, if I need to use my holy protection or anything to kind of give them a little bit extra health or yeah health back. So this part here, yeah, just kind of explained it already. Just want to save for your big DPS juice so that you don't have to play that, get knocked up by saws and stuff. You'll notice too, as soon as one of these, as soon as you enter the phase where you have the DPS, there's gonna be saws like the one up here spawn. Now they can spawn anywhere, but as a support, especially because my stagger's pretty good, what we used to do is I used to always exclusively focus on just getting these staggers so that they don't spin somewhere and then they blow up, because if they blow up they're gonna knock people back and they could possibly get chewed up by these lasers. So as a support, trying to be aware of your big stagger skills and where the saws are spawning and see if you get it. Otherwise, just kind of warning ping, or if you're in comms, tell people that be careful that they're gonna get knocked up. Otherwise, I think the DPS generally know they're just trying to juice through, breaking the heart, and you move on to the next phase, right? Um, but yeah, as soon as you enter the first room, and this is, I'll probably skip the second room because we usually skip second room mech now. But as a support, you're just supposed to walk the furthest away from the heart in comparison to your teammates so that you get the target. I always assist with at least a counter of the stagger one. Throw out a damage buff, and then I'm pretty much effing off to the corner where I could drop the puddle. Because the DPS do not want to be DPSing when one of those things spawns up. So, yeah, here I kind of forgot to kind of isolate myself from the DPS, make sure I get the target. Um, yeah, luckily we had some allies help out with some of those. Make sure to put the puddle at the top, away from the boss, and then now we can freely DPS comfortably. Pretty much repeat it until you break the little health bar at the top of the boss. So usually it takes like at least one more rotation. Again, help out with a stagger, help out with something. This time I had time to cast an Avail and do a little bit of extra GPS, but otherwise that's pretty free. Pretty simple as a support. I guess the only thing is just don't over greed the timing, I guess, to overstep. Timing for this one is a little bit, at least this mech is a little bit interesting, especially these mechs, where the different puddles start dropping down from the air. Always good to throw out a DR on your party members if you can, or Awakening. I've been one-shotted as a DPS, and that's mostly, just because we're trying to greedy a little bit extra. But yeah, just call out as a support. As soon as one of those normal patterns in this room happen, just try to throw out my Awakening or my DR skills on top of the DPS. Otherwise, you're kind of doing what you're normally doing as a support. For me, I'm shot calling here. Telling people side he pokes. Just reminding them of the mech so they know where to dodge. Everyone knows like the mech, right? It's just like if you call it out, they know exactly what they need to do to dodge it or whatnot. Um, and then here we didn't have to play one of the stagger or counter mechs, so I've got side. DPS is really good. I'm pretty much just trying to build up meter as fast as I can. I know he doesn't have a stagger bar, but sometimes throwing out my blue skills just to, get a little bit more meter generation outside of my yellow skills. Um, yeah, we're pretty much just back normally to these normal patterns. If you could tell, I'm pretty much just trying to play around, the melee players at the moment. I know the gunslinger doesn't get whole lot of love in terms of like where the DR is happening because I'm trying to protect the guys who might be, facing his front or when the boss is swiveling around like this. Um, but I'm able to, try to get everyone in within the DR, right? Or try to shot call so that even the gunslinger can know like which pattern it's gonna be. But yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, right? Again, you saw a perfect example. I got hit, and we all the DPS knew which was a safe spot because I called it out. And then yeah, we're gonna DPS right to the next mech. There's not really much else to describe here. Pretty much just DRing when I can, shielding off of CD, trying to call out just guards as well. Like some people, some of those patterns, only one person needs to hit the just guard for him to get, uh, you know, to get like stunned. Sometimes it's individual, and individually you'll get knocked back. So just try to call out the just guards. Here, I'm telling the DPS to pretty much hold their big damage skills, and then I'm providing like the big stagger skills because I want to make sure that especially the guys who want to do a lot of DPS, give them the opportunity to hold their DPS skills for when they actually have to start hitting the boss. Yeah, in this part we're just trying to juice it right as fast as we can. I'm probably saving side until about 4 billion, 3 billion HP on the shield left. But here, yeah, as you can see, I turned around to, DR my gunslinger, my range DPS in my party. Um, yeah, otherwise my main priority is just to make sure that I get side off, do the just guard properly, don't get knocked back again, be able to cast again, and then pretty much calling out if we need to actually do a little bit more damage to the heart. But in this case, we got the Aelin helping. We did a ton of damage to the boss. It's pretty smooth sailing. Second room, we're probably skipping, so this will probably be fast. We don't have to play it, but if you do have to play it, same thing applies. That's the first room. Same thing kind of applies to this part. Um, again, we're seeing these mechs second time. It's just more so just DPS checks. Um, I guess the only one thing to call out that I didn't call out before is in this slow-mo part. If you ever see one of your DPS kind of caught out in the red telegraph zones, you just use a DR on them, honestly. There's not enough time for you to use Awakening or anything. Just throw a DR skill at them and hope they got enough HP and shielding from that skill. Yeah, here is when you don't want to greed. You just want to, try to press my Blessed Aura a little bit earlier because it does provide a little bit of just healing in case they aren't tapped off. But yeah, that's a super risky mech, especially for DPS if they're trying to greed and they aren't tanky enough to, tank it. Yeah, this mech, pretty much, I guess this is the one good reason why you would save for your blue skills. It could be either stagger or counter. In that case, it was counter, so I've got my two counter skills up and ready. But yeah, same principle kind of applies. You're just DPSing. Off the final phase, and yeah, I'll just kind of wait till the end phase kind of starts, and you're mostly just yeah, the end phase you're mostly just kind of watching out for where the stage is gonna break. Otherwise, it's just making sure that you use your DR skills for your teammates, as well as if you need your own push immune skills, that you use them so that you don't go flying off the map, because it's gonna be real smudge if you don't have your support. So here, yep, intentionally one of the supports got hit. I think our arrow got hit instead, but same principle applies. You want it as a support, you get to probably tank that. Use the side secret Aelin here. And we of course he's gonna do the big steppa, as what I like to call it. Um, Usually I just pop Blessed right away just because it gives allies, a little bit time to DPS, even though they have to wait to be DPSing after the big steps. But it lasts long enough where you could continue the DPS afterwards. Um, this mech, I think sometimes it's either a counter or not. Like sometimes there's the blue counters. As a support, I'm trying to be a little bit more aware of those because I know the DPS might not be able to have their counters up. Uh, Call out. Usually I save my hyper awakening for after he does the first big steps. So I think this part he just landed. Let's see. Yeah, so this part, he just left. The big steps are coming in. He's gonna land, and then this would be a good time for any DPS member or anybody who's still alive to just use their hyper. You just want to make sure he doesn't do like a bad mech like this, where he's kind of jumping around and untargetable. But here I just see it's a good opportunity right now. He's just gonna be slashing back and forth. So I'm just gonna pop my hyper. Pretty sure I missed there actually. Funny enough, he took a back step, but it is what it is. Hopefully most people actually hit their hypers. But yeah, here would be a perfect time to use your hyper because he's standing still. Again, it's a support. I know that someone got hit, but I didn't have my push immune skill up, so I didn't bother. Don't take the risk if you don't have to. Is what I like to do. There's always going to be someone else that's probably greeding, and there's no reason for me to greed. But yeah, otherwise we're just watching out for stage break, and we're just DPSing down to 0. Now wait till we probably DPS until the last phase. The big steppa. Yeah, I guess you could use the side if it's up. Don't mind here, making sure that everyone knows. Oh, unfortunately, it's like 3 people got hit, so we don't know who it's gonna aggro on. Here, beforehand, when we used to be kind of newer to Aegir, I used to call out. I'll pause it right here for a second. I used to call out the sequence that we have to do like the mech in. So the first thing is just to make sure you get your Just Guard. So it's Just Guard, then counter, co-op counter. Then everyone has to look at the boss to get the light shots at him, and then you proceed to save your teammates if they're still stuck. As a support, it's pretty important, especially because I'm pretty decent at countering, I'd say. So I always try to make sure I hit the just guard and be part of that co-op countering process. Um, Otherwise, the main priority for you is, especially if people don't get the just guard right, you want to be able to shield them, shield your allies. So here, um, I notice it's a good opportunity for me to just awaken. He does do damage, especially to when he turns around. So a couple people may have gotten hit part of the co-op. Just look at the boss, get the lantern shots on him. Yeah, he'll shoot out that spiral, and it will hurt your allies if they're still stuck. So always try to like do at least a DR or some sort of shielding skill. And then after that, the whole mech is done, and you just try to DPS them until you're done. So until you have to repeat the steps. Otherwise, it's the exact same thing. You just pop those DR or shielding skills beforehand, uh, so that not everyone eats so much damage after the just guard. But yeah, we'll see. Just let it play out, see what happens, and see if there's anything else to call out. Yeah, so here, decided to play pretty financial. Didn't have my push immune skill, but unfortunately for that Soul Eater, he hit the dirt. Um, oh, here had to dodge the thing. Everyone's got fast reflexes to hit the just guard, except for me. Luckily, I'm pretty tanky. Everyone's looking. I did use, I think I did use was part of that co-op. Yep, there we go. So that's generally what the runs are like when I play Aegir now. Hopefully, I know it's a longer video. Kind of did a bunch of rambling on like what mechs to do and what normal patterns to be looking out for and stuff, but it's all part of the support experience. But I hope anyone who lasted this long in the video got something out of it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. And yeah, thanks a lot for stopping by. I'll see you guys in the next video.